Tifu by obliterating my wife's fish, by user Fishy Fisha. Happened last night. Wife's 8-year-old very large goldfish was passing away. Had dropsy, was suffering, and was on the verge of death. Wife and I looked into the symptoms and there was practically no hope of him making a recovery, so she asked me to euthanize him. Looking into methods, it seemed pretty agreed upon that the most effective and quick way to euthanize a fish was blunt force trauma. Now, when I was a kid my family were huge anglers, and I was designated as the fish killer when it was time to cook them. Back then, I was told to slam them on the ground as hard as I could. Well, my 8-year-old body wasn't strong enough to kill them instantaneously, so I had to do it multiple times. Honestly, it kind of fucked me up a little. Flash forward to last night, I didn't want that happening again and I wanted it to be painless. I asked my wife to leave the room because she was very upset and I chose to do the deed by putting the fish in a plastic grocery bag and slamming it on the counter as hard as I possibly could. The poor fish was absolutely obliterated. The force ripped open the bag and sprayed bits of what used to be a goldfish in every direction. Told my wife to stay upstairs and she started getting suspicious, so she comes down after 5 minutes and it's just everywhere still. On the counter, on the stove, on the fridge, on the freaking Christmas tree we still have up. I was still finding pieces of it this morning. Wife was aghast and traumatized. Cried until she went to bed. TL, Dr. I euthanized my wife's dying fish quickly but in the most visually traumatizing way possible. TIFU by silencing my wife's phone, by user jit_probe2. My wife went out with work friends tonight. I knew she would be back late but stayed up anyway just in case she needed to be picked up or whatever. Well, she rolled in about 1:30 drunk AF. I promptly turn off the movie I'm watching and we head to bed. I barely have time to get undressed before she says goodnight and rolls over. Now this struck me as odd because this woman gets ridiculously horny when she been drinking. But I guess not tonight. Rather frustrated I climb into bed and try to write it off as her just being overtired and overserved. Well, I'm just about asleep when her phone loudly goes off, startling me back into consciousness. Seeing no reaction from her, and knowing her notification will go off at least one more time unless it is dealt with, I reach over and grab it to flip the silent mode button. And here's where shit gets fucked up. You see, the notification was triggered by a text. A text from a guy who picked her up tonight, from some other random guy's house. BC random guy was super drunk and she was scared. His text, "Good night darling." What followed was me doing what I've never done, but obviously should have, a deep dive into her phone activity. What I found is as follows. She's fucked at least one of my, now former, friends. She is involved in an emotional affair with a friend of hers from college, also married, who seemed very eager to take advantage of his wife's absence so that he could spend time with mine. He was the noble knight who rescued her from rando drunk guy, and she has an impressively active Tinder profile. Oh yeah, and at one point this evening it seems she briefly considered hitching a ride with a stranger to Colorado. The texts, snaps and DMs took about an hour to get through. So now I'm sitting here, house quiet, nauseous and internally raging, drinking cheap beer, trying to figure out how we got here. I'd wake her up to confront her, but the kids are asleep and I just don't have the energy to fight tonight. There's 6 years down the fucking drain. Blah. TL, Dr. Found out my wife's been fucking other dudes when I tried to silence her notifications. Edit. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone for the kind words of support and mostly sound advice. Y'all are the best. Update, since I've been asked a few times I'll try it on this thread. If anyone will see if since it was taken down, but oh well. I confronted her Sunday night. Eventually she admitted what I already knew. I assume there's more I don't know about. I got set up to start counseling next week. Broke down at the office today and left early to save myself the embarrassment of crying at work. Staying with a friend's while I figure out which way is up. TIFU by being an unintentional wingman, by user throwaway 9x9x9x9. At my gym over the past couple of months I've noticed a cute girl who works out around the same time I do, and I was interested in asking her out, but I'm kind of awkward and I don't approach girls in the gym. A few times I've seen her talk to a guy who she seems to be friends with. I haven't seen anything romantic or flirtatious between them and I was pretty confident they weren't together. So my awkward self decided to talk to the guy and ask him if she was single. Very junior high of me, I know. He said he had no idea, that they know each other because they used to work together, and have been friends ever since. As he was talking she came walking over to us, and before I could stop him he turned to ask her. Paraphrasing what I remember. Him, "Hey, are you single?" Biko. Her, God, it's about time. I have been waiting forever for you to ask me out. Him, her, is that not what you were asking? Him, yeah it is. Are you free Saturday? Her, absolutely. Text me, I have to get going soon. Throughout this I was just standing there like a third wheel watching like a doofus. After she left he turned to me with an apologetic look on his face and said he'd always had a crush on her but never acted because he didn't want to hurt their friendship if she didn't feel the same way. I told him I completely understood and was happy for both of them. All in all, -1 for me and +2 for them equals net gain for love. TL, DR. Wanted to ask girl out, ended up getting her together with someone else. TIFU by not taking a teenager's business idea seriously enough, by user Captain Incompetent 33. About a year ago I was approached by a 16-year-old kid on LinkedIn with an business idea he wanted me to work with him on. I assumed a for free until funding basis. I'm a UX designer. I thought it was weird to be randomly contacted, but the foundations of his idea I thought were really solid and had growth potential, so I organized a call to discuss details etc. He ended up not being able to attend that call, and when he reached out to reschedule the message just slipped through my inbox unread for a while. After all, it was just a young guy with big dreams. How many guys are out there saying they've got the next big startup idea? So a week goes past and I forget about rescheduling, and then a month goes past and I forget about the idea altogether. A year goes past and I see his company in the news receiving over $2 million in venture capital funding. TL, DR, didn't take 16yo with startup idea seriously, missed out on a good growth opportunity. TIFU by doing Molly with my husband 45 minutes before his grandfather that we live with died, by user Caxanon 73. Last night my husband and I wanted a special evening so we took some Molly. We live with my husband's grandparents so that we can care for them in their old age. Grandpa had just been taken to hospice the day before but we thought he still had a few weeks. Well, about 45 minutes after taking huge doses, we get the call that he has passed and that my husband's entire family is on their way over to the house to console Grandma. We are so fucked up when they arrive and all we can do is sit there, drink some water, and try to keep our shit together. We made it through the terrible experience and can only laugh about it this morning. We are thankful for no one noticing how fucked up we were and even more thankful he passed and his suffering is over. He had been sick for a very very long time. TL, DR we took Molly, our grandfather that we live with died like immediately after, then the whole family came over to mourn while we are fucked up.